welcome to a very special book talk. This is when I'm going to be starting my series of Harry Potter book talks, which means we're going to be starting with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I'm going to be rereading these before the 8th one comes out. I literally grew up with the series. This book, if you don't know, is about a boy who finds out he's a wizard and he goes to wizarding school and he's quite famous because he survived the killing curse, which you're not supposed to be able to do, but apparently he can. And the first thing that crossed my mind was Dumbledore leaving Harry with the Dursleys. Like, what was going through this man's head when he was like, I'll just leave this child with these awful, terrible people? But I remembered, he didn't want him to know he was famous. He wanted him to grow up like a normal boy, which I can't understand why growing up with the Dursleys would be like growing up like a normal boy, but I understand his reasoning, sort of. Dumbledore is so much goofier in the first couple books. Like, what the first thing we see of Dumbledore is he offers Professor McGonagall, who's a cat at the time, like a Muggle sweet, because he has this thing for Muggle sweets. In the movie, the snake doesn't really want to go to Brazil, but like Harry just kind of lets him out. But in the book, the snake wants to go to Brazil. The snake had like such a bright personality, and I loved it so much. Harry starts getting these letters from Hogwarts, and Dursleys are trying to hide it and everything, but I feel like they're like, we still couldn't get him his letters, sir, and Dumbledore's just like, just send them some more, and then he starts giggling. There are a couple incidences in this series where I feel like Dumbledore's just giggling in his office somewhere. Like, they go and stay in a hut somewhere, and then Hagrid finds them, but the Dursleys start sassing Hagrid, which is not good, because Hagrid's like a softie until you sass him. So he tries to turn Dudley into a pig. The wizard currency is so confusing. In America, we do things like in fours, but this just doesn't make sense. Like, it just doesn't. And also 7 galleons for a wand seems kind of cheap, but I guess to me a wand seems like a priceless possession, but in this world it probably is. I want to talk about peeves. I keep wondering, why does Dumbledore allow this annoying ghost to stay in the castle? Like, I think maybe that he was like a student and he was like a prankster, like Fred and George times 20, and then he like pulled a prank and he was killed in the prank, but Dumbledore was so astounded by the prank that he just let his spirit stay. But every time we see Peeves, he's so annoying. Also, why is Peeves afraid of the Bloody Bear? Somehow Harry out-Quidditched Charlie Weasley. I think that's all for the non-spoilery section. But yeah, if you haven't read Harry Potter, I don't know what you've been doing, but read it. And why haven't you read Harry Potter? Have you been living under a rock? Okay, bye, non-spoilery people! So Harry Potter was like my entire life when I was growing up, but there was still stuff that I missed when I was reading them, and I read them so many times when I was in elementary school. Like, it was probably unhealthy the amount of times that I read these books, but that's okay. But I still missed things, like the chess pieces that give Harry advice while Harry's trying to learn wizard chess. Like, I missed that. I didn't remember that, because I guess after the first time I read them, I was just kind of skimming over just to have something to read. I never realized that they met Fluffy for the first time when they were going to fight Malfoy, because they already knew that they hated him. I can't get my hair situated. It's like a lion's mane. Look at all that. I'm a lion. They were going to fight Malfoy, and they had this fight prepared to the second Ron and Harry, but then Hermione decides to tag along in case they get in trouble, and then Neville decides to tag along because he can't remember the password, so he has to sleep outside. But then by the time they get out and they tell him the password, the fat lady has gone off somewhere. So now there's 4 of them, and they get to the trophy room where they're about to fight Malfoy, and Filch comes in, and they're like, we were never gonna fight Malfoy. Malfoy was just gonna set us up, and he did. I also didn't realize that what they think is happening with the Sorcerer's Stone and stuff is the exact opposite of what's actually happening. And like, now that I know who Snape actually is, like, everyone stop accusing Snape of things. But Dumbledore knows that this year Snape is helping Harry because he owes Harry's father a debt. And so I keep wondering, throughout all the other books, would he have actually hated Harry if he hadn't have loved Lily? Like, he was kind of this antagonist, but he did underlying good things, and if he hadn't had been in love with Lily, would he have actually hated Harry? Like, I don't know. It's just things I wonder about, especially now that I'm coming back to the series after so long, now that I can understand things. Another thing I understand is we don't really meet Weasley family as much. Like, this is our introduction to the Weasley family, but we only get snippets of them in this one. The Weasley family is so kind-hearted and good, but the Malfoys still insist on hating on them, and I don't understand why. Like, when Harry's broom gets jinxed in his first Quidditch game, the Weasleys fly up to him and try to pull him onto their brooms, and their brooms probably can't support two people, and they might get jinxed by the person who's jinxing Harry's broom, but they still try to go get him, and if that's not kind and good-hearted, then I don't know what is, okay? And the Sorting Hat song?
Oh, you may not think I'm pretty, but don't judge on what you see. I'll eat myself if you can find a smarter hat than me. You think keep your bowlers black, your top hat's freaking tall. For I'm the Hogwarts sorting hat, and I can cap them all. There's nothing hidden in your head, the sorting hat can't see, so try and meet Yarn, and I will tell you where you ought to be. You might belong in Gryffindor, where, well, the brave at heart, their daring nerve and chivalry set Gryffindor apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin you'll make your real friends, those cunning filkies enemies to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid, and don't get in a flap. Your instinct hands, though I have none, for I'm a thinking cat.
If I was some 11-year-old standing at this magical school where I did not know what to expect and this hat started singing to me about all these weird things that it's gonna read my mind, I would be terrified and I'd probably cry. I don't know why Harry didn't cry. I would have cried. That's scary. Dumbledore, the first thing he says is don't go into the Forbidden Forest. But Harry has gotten his hair in such a twist about Snape that when Snape goes into the Forbidden Forest, Harry's just like, okay, and he goes and follows him. You stupid 11-year-old. What were you thinking? Why would you do that? Harry does a lot of stupid things in this book, and when I was 11 and reading this, I didn't really realize that an 11-year-old doing these things is stupid, but they are! Like, why did Harry think for a second that he could take on Severus Snape, who is one of the greatest wizards of all time? Why would he be a match for Severus Snape? He tells Hermione to get help really quickly because I'm really no match for Severus Snape. Why did he think he could fend off Severus Snape for more than 30 seconds? He's lucky that it wasn't actually Snape waiting for him, because he would be dead. Ron and Harry don't actually like Hermione until they lock her in the bathroom with the troll, and they all three have to team up and fight against the troll, and then they're like inseparable. There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. So that's how Harry and Ron and Hermione all became best friends, and that's a cool aspect to have, that like the three, your tag team weren't just drawn to each other immediately, because that's what happens with a lot of books, and that's not bad. Like, I know you didn't like someone that much right after seeing them, and they didn't. They just fought off a mountain troll together. It was great. And then Christmas. It's Harry's first Christmas where he actually has presents and celebration, and he gets to be involved, and then he gets a Weasley sweater. And then Fred and Percy and George all come in, and they're like, you're not sitting with the prefects today. Christmas is a time for family. And they just, like, march him out. Like, Percy's kind of a jerk, and he is a jerk throughout a lot of the series, but that's okay. Like, they're all so good-hearted. Hagrid really wants a dragon, but then he gets caught. Malfoy sees him with the dragon, and so they're worried they're gonna get caught. So Ron's brother Charlie works with dragons in Romania, and so they send a letter to Charlie to come get the dragon, but something holds up Hagrid, and Ron can't go. And so Harry and Hermione are left to just, under the invisibility cloak, to carry this dragon up to the tallest tower at midnight for Charlie's friends to come pick up. And then Harry leaves his invisibility cloak at the tower after the dragon's gone and the dragon stuff all works out. After it's gone, they're hopping down, not under the invisibility cloak. For one, that's stupid. You're gonna get caught. It's midnight. And for the second thing, that's your most prized possession. It was a Christmas present and it belonged to your father, and you're gonna leave it up on that tower. Why would you do that? And so then they all get detention, and a unicorn has been killed, and a unicorn is apparently the most pure creature, purer even than the Weasley family. It's been slain, and someone's been drinking its blood, and Hagrid's trying to figure out if there's something loose in the Forbidden Forest, and all the centaurs are saying is, Mars is bright tonight. Because the centaurs are uncooperative jerks, except for one of them, who we meet again later. When they think Snape's gonna take the Sorcerer's Stone, they go down and the first thing they land in is Devil's Snare. And Hermione's like, oh, it's afraid of fire and bright lights. And Ron's like, well, start a fire. And she's like, but there's no wood! And which is my favorite line. He goes, are you a witch or not? I don't think that was in the movie, but that was quality. You forget that she's Muggle-born and that these wizarding ways aren't like what she grew up with, and so she's just gonna forget that you can use magic to save yourself in these situations. And also when they're down there, they have to play chess. In the movie, Ron rides the chess piece, but in the book, Ron is the chess piece. So instead of riding it when it gets smacked by the queen, this big stone queen takes a bat and conks Ron across the entire body and sends him flying. And so, like, the sacrifice bit that Dumbledore was talking about at the end didn't really make sense, but in the book it made perfect sense, because he went and got body slammed by a stone bat of sorts. Harry would have died, like, he was about to die, but they found him in time, and Dumbledore just knows where to be, but he's always like 5 minutes late. So, I mean, he saved Harry, but Harry could have used some help a few minutes before. Quirrell's downfall, like, he was the villain and you're not supposed to think so far into it, but he died because he couldn't feel love. It was because Harry was so good and pure that he exploded. And that made me so sad. Like, what kind of a life have you led? But I guess he was attached to Voldemort. So I've heard people talking about Dumbledore's favoritism when he gives Gryffindor all those points. I never thought of it as just like he didn't want Slytherin to win. I think he probably couldn't care less, but he knows that when Harry and Ron and Hermione are losing all these points for Gryffindor, they're actually doing something nice for someone else. Like, they lost like 150 points the night that they saved Norbert and that they helped Hagrid. Dumbledore knew that because he knows everything. And they lost some points when they saved Hermione from the troll, or Hermione lost some points for being in with the troll. So Dumbledore knows that. And at the very end, they give the note saying, don't use magic outside school, and Fred says, oh, I wish they'd forget to give us this, because if they forget to give it to them, does the rule magically disappear? If they don't get the letter, then are they just going to assume that the rule doesn't exist, or pretend that they forgot about it, even though it's been drilled into their heads for weeks? For years? That's all for my Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone book talk. There's plenty more Harry Potter book talks to come. I hope you stick around for them. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm Effie. I make videos every weekend and I upload book talks whenever I can. Bye!